Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with My Mind Mashups. And if you like what you hear, well, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. This month we're celebrating Black History Month, and we thought what better way to do that than to take a look at some really fascinating figures in history. People whose contributions may not be as well known as some of the bigger names. We're talking about going beyond, the typical icons and digging into the stories of folks who really, really shaped history in incredible ways.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, history really tends to focus on those big names. And what we're trying to do in this deep dive is shine a light on those unsung heroes whose work really, in medicine, science, activism, and even the arts left a lasting impact. I mean, on our world, on everybody.
Absolutely. And we have some incredible sources lined up. I mean, we're talking historical articles, research papers, even some really insightful blog posts. And what's our mission with all this? Well, to uncover those hidden gems of Black history, to tell the stories of these remarkable individuals who made contributions that have often been, well, kind of overshadowed.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to celebrate Black History Month, by expanding our understanding of the diverse and remarkable achievements of Black Americans. So let's start with a true trailblazer in medicine, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler. She became the first Black woman to earn a medical degree in the United States in 1864.
Wow, 1864. Right in the middle of the Civil War. I mean, can you imagine the challenges she must have faced, not just as a woman pursuing a medical career, but as a Black woman in that era? It's hard to even fathom.
Right. And, it was a time of immense social and political upheaval, and the barriers that she faced were truly formidable. Sources like Time magazine and the National Institutes of Health, they really highlight how extraordinary this achievement was. I mean, think about it. She's breaking barriers in education and medicine while the nation is literally at war with itself. And she didn't stop there. After the war, Dr. Crumpler dedicated herself to providing medical care to freed slaves in the South.
That's incredible. Working in a society still deeply divided, facing racism, sexism, and she persevered to provide care to those who needed it most.
Absolutely. And sources from the University of Maryland's African American Studies Department really emphasize this point, that, she wasn't just practicing medicine, she was challenging deeply ingrained societal norms. And what's even more remarkable was that she also wrote a book of medical discourses, and this book focused on public health and childcare, especially for Black women and children.
So she was not only a practicing physician, but also an author and an advocate for public health. That's amazing.
It really speaks to her commitment to improving the lives of Black communities. And her book, it was one of the first medical texts by an African-American author. And it addressed the specific needs of a population that was often overlooked or underserved by the medical establishment. So, her work is just a testament to her dedication both to medicine and social justice.
Okay. So from pioneering medical advancements, we shift gears to someone who, well, revolutionized how we get our groceries. We're talking about Fred Jones.
Yeah. And here's a fun fact to start. Remember those iconic ice cream trucks that bring joy to kids everywhere? Well, you can thank Fred Jones for those. He invented the first portable refrigeration system for trucks way back in 1938.
Wait, so he's the reason we have ice cream trucks? I never knew that.
Mhm.
But seriously, that invention must have had a huge impact beyond just ice cream.
You're absolutely right. It wasn't just about sweet treats. Sources like Yesterday's America, they detail how Jones's invention really revolutionized the transportation of perishable goods. I mean, making fresh produce available to people far and wide. Before his invention, transporting food over long distances was a logistical nightmare. It was, led to spoilage, limited access to fresh foods. But Jones's refrigeration system, well, that changed everything.
That makes a lot of sense. And I bet his invention was especially important during World War II.
You bet it was. I mean, think about it. During the war, getting those vital supplies like blood and medicine to the front lines was critical. And Jones's refrigeration units played a major role in preserving these life-saving resources,
Right.
making sure that they reached soldiers and hospitals in good condition. It's amazing how a seemingly simple invention, a portable refrigerator, can have such a ripple effect across different aspects of life, from what we eat to wartime logistics.
Speaking of challenging the status quo, our next deep dive takes us back to the early 1900s, way before the major civil rights movements. Meet Barbara Pope, an educator and activist who stood up against segregation decades earlier.
And what's fascinating about Barbara Pope is that her story, it really demonstrates that the fight for equality, it has deep roots. stretching back further than many people realize. So it's 1906, and Barbara Pope refuses to give up her seat on a train simply because of her race.
Wow, 1906. That's decades before Rosa Parks. It's incredible to see those early acts of resistance, these people challenging the system.
Exactly. And her story, which is highlighted in sources like Unsung Heroes of Black History Month, it shows this ongoing struggle. What's even more impressive is that she didn't just refuse to move. She took legal action against the railroad company, and she won.
So she didn't just take a stand, she took it to court and set a precedent for challenging segregation laws.
Her victory was significant, because it demonstrated that individuals could challenge segregation through the legal system. And this victory, although relatively unknown, it laid the groundwork for future legal battles that would eventually dismantle segregation altogether.
Okay, so from the segregated trains of the early 20th century, let's jump to one of the most iconic moments in the civil rights movement, the 1963 March on Washington. You know, most people know Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech.
Hmm.
But what about the person behind the scenes, the one who orchestrated that event? Bayard Rustin, a man whose contributions are often well overlooked.
Rustin's story is so inspiring and also a little heartbreaking. He was a master strategist, a genius organizer who meticulously planned the logistics of this march, making sure that it was peaceful and maximizing its impact. Sources like Britannica and AUR and highlight his vital role.
Yeah, and he faced a lot of discrimination within the movement itself because he was openly gay. It's sad to think that someone who contributed so much to the fight for equality, well, he had to face prejudice within the very movement he was helping to lead.
That's true. It's a reminder of the complexities of history.
Yeah.
And the fact that even within movements for social justice, there can be those internal struggles, prejudices.
Yeah.
Despite facing homophobia, Rustin remained committed to the cause, working tirelessly behind the scenes to advance civil rights, not just for Black Americans, but for all marginalized communities. And his unwavering commitment to nonviolence, his organizational skills, well, they made the March on Washington a pivotal moment, in American history.
Okay, so from organizing a massive march to someone who used art as a weapon, Jackie Orms, the first Black woman cartoonist.
Yeah, and here's someone who really used her platform to challenge harmful narratives. In the 1930s and 40s, when racist stereotypes were rampant in the media, Orms created characters like Torchy Brown, who are intelligent, independent, stylish, successful. She directly confronted those demeaning images of Black women that were just so prevalent in the media at that time. And she offered a really powerful counter-narrative through her art.
Wow, so she wasn't just creating entertainment, she was challenging those societal norms and offering a new vision of Black womanhood.
Publications like the Pittsburgh Courier and the Chicago Defender, they carried her comic strips. So she reached a wide audience and exposed them to these groundbreaking characters. And what's really interesting is that her work, she didn't shy away from addressing really complex social issues, things like racism, sexism, injustice. As Yesterday's America describes, Orms wasn't afraid to use her art to tackle the difficult issues of the day, making her a true pioneer in the world of comics.
It's amazing to think how she used humor and art to address such weighty topics, paving the way for greater representation, challenging stereotypes.
Absolutely. Her characters were more than just entertainment. They were symbols of empowerment and, a testament to the resilience and the multifaceted nature of Black women. She was a true trailblazer, and her work continues to inspire artists and activists today.
All right, from the world of comics to another medical hero, one whose contributions continue to save lives today, Dr. Charles Drew.
Yeah, Dr. Drew's story is so relevant. Especially now with the importance of blood donation. He was a brilliant surgeon and researcher, and he developed these groundbreaking techniques for blood storage and transfusion. These advancements, they were instrumental in establishing large-scale blood banks, especially during World War II. They saved countless lives.
So he essentially laid the foundation for the modern blood bank system we rely on today.
Exactly. His research and innovations revolutionized the way we collect, store, and use blood, making transfusions safer and more readily available. So, his work has had a lasting impact on healthcare systems around the world.
Now, this next individual story is just so inspiring, especially considering the challenges that she faced. Dr. Jane Cook Wright, a true pioneer in oncology, she revolutionized cancer treatment.
Yeah. Dr. Wright's achievements are just remarkable. She developed innovative chemotherapy techniques, including the use of methotrexate, which is a drug still widely used today. Back then, cancer treatment was still in its early stages, and she was at the forefront.
It's incredible to think how her work has impacted countless lives. extending lifespans, improving quality of life for so many.
And what's even more impressive is that, she achieved all this while facing those barriers, racism and sexism within the medical establishment. And in 1967, she became the highest-ranking Black woman in a nationally recognized medical institution. So it's just a testament to her brilliance and her perseverance and really her unwavering dedication.
Okay, so from groundbreaking medical research, let's move to business and entrepreneurship. Our next unsung hero, Annie Turnbull Malone, a self-made millionaire and a pioneer in the beauty industry.
Yeah. And Annie Malone's story is really about entrepreneurship, empowerment. I mean, she wasn't just creating beauty products, she was building a business empire.
Mm.
And she was uplifting Black communities in the process. She developed a line of hair care products specifically for Black women. She recognized a need that was largely ignored by the mainstream market at the time. And get this, she became one of the first Black women to become a millionaire in the United States.
A millionaire. That's remarkable for anyone, but especially for a Black woman in the early 20th century. I mean, the challenges she must have faced.
Oh, yeah. She faced it all. Racism, sexism, all those obstacles. But her determination, her business acumen were unstoppable. And she didn't stop at just building her own success. She also founded Poro College, a cosmetology school and center that provided training and economic opportunities for Black women.
So she was not only a successful businesswoman, but she was also investing in her community and empowering other Black women. That's amazing.
It's a powerful example of how entrepreneurship can be a force for social change. And her legacy extends beyond the beauty industry, demonstrating the power of economic empowerment and community building. So she really paved the way for countless Black entrepreneurs.
Okay. And speaking of breaking barriers in the world of finance, our next deep dive is on Maggie L. Walker, who, well, made history in the banking industry.
Yeah. And Maggie Walker's story is about financial empowerment and just defying the odds. Imagine this. In 1903, she became the first Black woman to charter a bank in the United States.
Right.
This was a time when Black people faced such immense discrimination, limited access to financial resources, and yet she was determined to create those opportunities for her community.
It must have been so difficult to establish a bank in that era, especially as a Black woman. What was the name of the bank she founded?
It was called the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank, and it was more than just a bank. Sources like Unsung Heroes, they describe how her bank really became a pillar of the Black community, providing loans, mortgages, and guidance to Black families, businesses that were often denied access to those traditional banking services.
Wow. So she was creating a pathway to homeownership, to starting businesses, to building wealth, at a time when those opportunities were often just out of reach. That's a powerful legacy.
Absolutely. Her bank became a symbol of hope and a testament to the power of financial inclusion. She demonstrated that with vision, with determination, a commitment to community, even the most formidable obstacles can be overcome. And, I think that's a great place to pause for now.
I agree. But before we go, I want to remind everybody to hit that like button and subscribe to My Mind Mashups for more. We've got more incredible stories to share, so stay tuned.
Oh, we're just getting started. There are so many more unsung heroes waiting to be discovered, and we're excited to share their stories. So stick around.
Welcome back to our deep dive into those unsung heroes of Black History Month.
I'm still amazed by all those incredible stories we uncovered. I mean, it's amazing how many individuals have made significant contributions, but, well, they just haven't gotten the recognition.
It's true. History often focuses on those big names, but it's important to acknowledge the people who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, whose efforts really paved the way for progress and change. Exactly. And today we're going to shine a spotlight on even more of those folks, starting with someone who took a stand against segregation long before it became, a central focus of the movement.
You're talking about Claudette Colvin, right? The teenager who refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, 9 months before Rosa Parks.
That's right, 1955. 15-year-old Claudette Colvin refused to move to the back of the bus, even when she was faced with arrest. Sources like Oprah Daily and AURN really paint a picture of her incredible courage at such a young age.
Yeah, it's crucial to acknowledge that while Rosa Parks became the symbol of the Montgomery bus boycott, Claudette Colvin's act of defiance was really important. I mean, her story is a reminder that young people can be such powerful agents of change, even when facing pressure and danger.
She knew her rights, and she was willing to fight for them, even as a teenager.
And her actions had a ripple effect. She was one of the principal plaintiffs in Browder v. Gale, which was the landmark Supreme Court case that declared bus segregation unconstitutional. Her courage, along with the efforts of so many others, really helped dismantle the system of racial injustice that had been in place for far too long.
Speaking of challenging the status quo in the media, our next unsung hero is Max Robinson, the first African-American man to anchor a network newscast.
Yeah. Robinson's impact on journalism is undeniable. He broke barriers and really changed the face of TV news, paving the way for greater diversity and representation in an industry that, well, had been dominated by white men.
It's amazing to think about the impact he had on aspiring journalists, showing them that they too could have a place.
He was a vocal advocate for more inclusive newsrooms, for amplifying Black voices in the media. He co-founded the National Association of Black Journalists, and that organization continues to advocate for diversity and equity.
It's so important to have those diverse perspectives in the media, making sure that stories are told from different angles.
Robinson understood that, and he used his platform to speak truth to power, to shine a light on those issues that were ignored or marginalized. His legacy is one of courage, integrity, and a commitment to journalistic excellence.
Okay, our next deep dive takes us back to the heart of the civil rights movement, to the fight for voting rights in Selma, Alabama. Have you heard of Annie Lee Cooper?
Annie Lee Cooper. Her story is one of incredible resilience, determination. As Oprah Daily highlights, she was a tireless advocate for voter registration in Selma, working to empower those Black communities that had been denied their right to vote.
I've seen the movie Selma.
Ah.
And there's that powerful scene where she punches Sheriff Jim Clark in the face. I mean, it's a moment that really captures the anger and frustration that so many Black people felt at the time, facing violence and intimidation simply for trying to vote.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that her activism extended far beyond that single act. She faced constant threats, harassment, but she never backed down. And, she was a force to be reckoned with. Her unwavering courage in the face of oppression helped pave the way for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
It's hard to believe that just a few decades ago, people were risking their lives simply for the right to vote. It's a reminder of how far we've come, but also how much work still needs to be done.
Absolutely. Annie Lee Cooper's story, along with the stories of countless others who fought, they remind us that the struggle for equality is ongoing, and that we must remain vigilant in protecting those rights.
Let's talk about another remarkable woman who deserves recognition, someone who dedicated her life to uplifting women and marginalized communities, Dorothy Height.
Dorothy Height, often called the godmother of the women's movement. She was a tireless advocate for civil rights and social justice. She was working on multiple fronts to address those systemic inequalities.
She led the National Council of Negro Women for over 40 years, which is just incredible.
Exactly. She was a constant presence, in the fight, leading marches, organizing protests, advocating for policies to improve the lives of women, marginalized communities. And she understood that the fight for equality, it required a multi-pronged approach. It wasn't just about racial discrimination, but also sexism, economic injustice.
That intersectionality.
Yeah.
Recognizing that interconnectedness of different forms of oppression. It's so important.
She was a visionary in that regard. She recognized that true equality requires that holistic approach, addressing all those different forms of discrimination. Her work addressed education, healthcare, economic empowerment, and she was such a strong advocate for collaboration across different social justice movements.
Her story is a reminder that true progress requires us to address those inequalities, on multiple fronts.
Absolutely. Dorothy Height's legacy continues to inspire activists and organizers today as they work to build a more just and equitable world for all.
Okay, let's shift our focus to the world of sports. To an athlete whose achievements defied expectations and challenged those racist ideologies on a global stage. Jesse Owens.
Jesse Owens' story is one of triumph over adversity, of athletic excellence in the face of prejudice and discrimination. Imagine. It's 1936, the Olympic Games are being held in Nazi Germany, and Jesse Owens, a Black athlete from the United States, wins 4 gold medals. In track and field, shattering Hitler's myth of Aryan supremacy.
4 gold medals, that's incredible. To do that in Nazi Germany with the world watching, that must have taken so much courage.
Absolutely. He faced such intense pressure and scrutiny, but he didn't let that deter him. He defied expectations. He challenged racist ideologies. His victories were a testament to his talent and really a symbol of hope and resilience in the face of oppression.
His story is such a reminder that athletic achievement can be a powerful force for social change. challenging stereotypes, inspiring people around the world.
And his legacy as a world-class athlete and as a symbol of human potential continues to inspire generations, athletes and activists.
Speaking of breaking barriers and defying expectations, our next deep dive is about Bessie Coleman, the first black woman to earn a pilot's license.
Bessie Coleman's story is one of daring, of determination, breaking down barriers in aviation. So it's the early 1920s, and Bessie Coleman dreams of flying. But she faces this double challenge. She's black, and she's a woman, and no flight schools in the United States would accept her.
Wow, that's disheartening. But she didn't let that stop her, did she?
Absolutely not. She was determined to achieve her dream, so she learned French, traveled to France, and earned her pilot's license there in 1921.
Talk about perseverance. She didn't let racism or sexism stand in her way. I mean, she went to another country, learned another language, just to pursue her passion.
And when she returned to the U.S., she became a celebrated stunt pilot, performing in air shows across the country. She was a true pioneer, inspiring a whole generation of black aviators and demonstrating that the sky was the limit, no matter what.
Her story is a testament to the power of pursuing your dreams, no matter what the obstacles, and to the importance of representation in fields that have, historically excluded women and minorities.
Absolutely. Bessie Coleman paved the way for future black pilots, astronauts, showing them that anything is possible if you dare to dream big.
All right, now let's turn our attention to a man who changed the landscape of media and provided a really powerful platform for black voices. Robert Sengstack Abbott, the founder of the Chicago Defender.
Robert Abbott's story is one of vision, entrepreneurial spirit, and a deep commitment to social justice. So in 1905, he founded the Chicago Defender, which was one of the most influential black newspapers in the country. And it quickly became a voice for the voiceless, covering issues that were often, ignored or misrepresented by the mainstream media.
The Chicago Defender played a key role in the Great Migration, encouraging black Americans to leave the South and seek opportunities in the North.
That's right. The paper provided information, job opportunities, housing, resources that were available in the North. And it also played this crucial role in exposing the realities of racism and segregation, reporting on lynchings, racial violence, the injustices faced by black communities across the country.
So it was more than just a newspaper. It was a source of information, a platform for activism, a lifeline.
Absolutely. Abbott's work laid the foundation for black media and its role in shaping public opinion and advocating for social justice. The Chicago Defender was a beacon of hope, a powerful tool for empowerment during, a time of immense social and political change.
And from the world of journalism, we move to entertainment, where Ethel Waters shattered those barriers as this groundbreaking actress and singer.
Ethel Waters. Her career spanned decades, from vaudeville to Broadway to film, television. She was a pioneer, breaking barriers, challenging those stereotypes in an industry that was, often hostile to black performers.
It's incredible to think about the challenges she must have faced.
She faced discrimination, prejudice throughout her career, but her talent and perseverance were just undeniable. She became the first African-American to star in her own TV show, The Ethel Waters Show. And in 1962, she was nominated for an Emmy.
Wow, that's remarkable, considering the limited opportunities back then.
Her talent, her determination paved the way, for future generations, demonstrating that excellence could transcend those racial boundaries.
And from the stage and screen, we moved to literature, where Gwendolyn Brooks captivated readers with her poetry.
Gwendolyn Brooks. Her words painted such vivid portraits of black life in America, exploring those themes of race, identity, social justice. And she had a depth and sensitivity that resonated with readers across generations.
And she was the first black author to win the Pulitzer Prize for poetry. What kind of themes did her poetry explore?
Her poems really explored the complexities of black life, from the joys and sorrows of everyday life to the struggles against racism and inequality. Her work was both personal and political.
Her poetry must have been such a powerful voice for those who were often marginalized.
Absolutely. She used her words to challenge injustice, celebrate black culture, and uplift those marginalized communities. Her legacy as a poet, a mentor, a voice, it continues to resonate today.
From the written word, we move back to sports. To another athlete who shattered records and made history, Alice Coachman.
Alice Coachman's story is one of determination, athletic excellence, and breaking barriers in women's sports.
I know that she was an incredible high jumper. What makes her story so remarkable?
Well, imagine this. It's 1948, the Olympics are being held in London, and Alice Coachman becomes the first African-American woman to win an Olympic gold medal. She dominated the high jump, set a new Olympic record, and really, paved the way for future generations of black female athletes.
The first black woman to win Olympic gold. That's incredible.
Her victory was such a watershed moment,
Yeah.
for black women in sports, demonstrating that they could compete at the highest level. It was a testament to her skill, her perseverance, and the power of breaking those barriers.
Okay. And from the athletic field to the courtroom, where Jane Boland shattered those glass ceilings and dedicated her life to fighting for racial justice, equality.
Jane Boland's story is one of breaking barriers in the legal profession and using her position to advocate for children's rights and to challenge those discriminatory practices.
I know she achieved a lot of firsts in her career.
Jane Boland was a true trailblazer. She was the first black woman to graduate from Yale Law School, to join the New York City Bar, and to serve as a judge in the United States. And she served as a judge in New York City's family court for 40 years. And throughout her career, she fought tirelessly for racial justice and equality, particularly in family courts.
That's incredible. I mean, she was a pioneer.
And her impact extended beyond the courtroom. She was a passionate advocate for children's rights, challenging those discriminatory practices and working to make sure that all children, regardless of their race, received fair and equitable treatment.
Her story is such an inspiring example of how one person can make a difference by challenging the status quo and fighting for a better society.
Absolutely. Jane Boland's legacy continues to inspire those who are working to create a more just and compassionate legal system that upholds the rights of all.
Okay, let's shift our focus to another pioneer in filmmaking. Have you heard of Maria P. Williams?
Maria P. Williams. Her story is often overlooked in the history of filmmaking, but her contributions are significant. She's considered to be the first woman of color to produce a film. And her 1923 film, The Flames of Wrath, well, it was groundbreaking.
What made her film so groundbreaking?
Well, it featured an all-black cast and crew, which was a rarity in an industry that, was dominated by white filmmakers. And, black actors were often relegated to stereotypical roles. So, her work challenged those racist and sexist norms and showcased the talent and creativity of black artists.
Wow, so she was creating opportunities for black actors and filmmakers at a time when those opportunities were, well, very limited.
Exactly. She was a true visionary, paving the way for greater diversity and representation in filmmaking. And her work demonstrates how important it is to tell stories, from multiple perspectives, giving voice to those who've been, well, marginalized and silenced.
Yeah, her story is a reminder that representation matters.
Yeah.
Both in front of and behind the camera.
Absolutely. Maria P. Williams' legacy continues to inspire those filmmakers and artists to push boundaries, challenge the status quo, create art that reflects the richness and diversity of our world.
Now let's talk about someone who is a prominent figure in the fight for LGBTQ+ rights, Marsha P. Johnson.
Yeah.
A true icon of courage and activism.
Yeah. Marsha P. Johnson's story is one of resilience, activism, and fighting for visibility and acceptance in a society that, often marginalized and ostracized LGBTQ+ individuals. She was a transgender activist, a drag queen, a prominent figure in the Stonewall Uprising, a pivotal moment in the fight for LGBTQ+ rights.
I know that Stonewall is considered a turning point, but I don't really know that much about Marsha P. Johnson's specific involvement.
She was on the front lines, resisting police brutality, advocating for the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals to live freely. Her courage, her activism, well, it helped spark a movement that continues today.
It's incredible to think about her bravery, standing up for her rights and the rights of her community in the face of such hostility.
She was fearless, challenging societal norms, fighting for a world where LGBTQ+ individuals could live, authentically. And she didn't stop at just activism. She also co-founded STAR, an organization that provided housing and support to homeless LGBTQ+ youth.
So she was not only fighting for rights, but she was also providing support to those who were, well, most vulnerable. That's really inspiring.
Absolutely. Marsha P. Johnson's legacy continues to inspire activists, working to create a world where everyone, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, can live with dignity, with respect, and equal rights.
And from activism, we move to music, to a singer whose incredible vocal range and soulful sound captivated audiences, Minnie Riperton.
Minnie Riperton, her voice was truly a gift, capable of soaring through 5 octaves with ease and grace. Her music blended elements of pop, soul, jazz, creating this unique and ethereal sound.
And her hit song Lovin' You is such a classic.
She faced her share of obstacles, navigating a music industry that wasn't always welcoming. But her talent and her passion for music, well, it's shown through. Her music wasn't just about those high notes. It was about expressing emotions, conveying stories, and touching people's hearts.
It's amazing how music can transcend those barriers.
And Minnie Riperton's music did just that. Her voice had this unique ability to convey vulnerability, joy, and, just a depth connection to the human spirit. So her legacy is one of brilliance, innovation, and just pushing the boundaries of vocal performance.
Okay, let's talk about a young hero whose story reminds us that even children can be powerful agents of change. Ruby Bridges.
Ruby Bridges. Her story is a powerful testament to the courage and resilience of children. Imagine this. It's 1960. New Orleans is still deeply segregated, and 6-year-old Ruby Bridges becomes the first African-American student to attend an all-white elementary school.
6 years old. It's hard to fathom the bravery it must have taken for her to walk through those doors, facing those jeers and threats.
She was escorted by federal marshals every day, facing this barrage of hate and bigotry, just to get an education. And yet she persisted, demonstrating incredible strength. In the face of such hostility, her actions helped to desegregate schools across the South and pave the way for equal educational opportunities.
Her story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and courage can prevail, and that even the youngest among us can make a difference.
Absolutely. Ruby Bridges' legacy continues to inspire those folks who are working to make sure that all children have access to a good education, no matter what.
Speaking of breaking barriers and inspiring future generations, our next deep dive takes us, well, to the final frontier, to a woman who defied gravity and shattered those glass ceilings. Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman in space.
Mae Jemison. Her story is about defying limitations and achieving, well, the impossible. She wasn't just an astronaut. She was a physician, an engineer, a dancer, and an entrepreneur. She really embodies that idea that we're not limited.
It's incredible to think about all the different things she's done.
She served as a mission specialist on the Space Shuttle Endeavour in 1992, conducting experiments, inspiring a whole generation. And since then, she's continued to advocate for STEM education, encouraging young people, women, and minorities to pursue careers in those fields.
Her story is such a powerful reminder that, anything is possible.
Absolutely. Mae Jemison's legacy continues to inspire us to reach for the stars, to embrace our potential, and to really contribute to humanity, in those meaningful ways.
And from space, we come back to Earth, to a voice that, well, moved mountains. Marian Anderson, one of the greatest contralto singers of all time.
Marian Anderson's story is one of triumph over prejudice and the power of music to transcend barriers and unite people. She was a world-renowned opera singer whose talent was undeniable, but she faced such discrimination. She was denied opportunities because of her race.
It's heartbreaking to think that someone with such talent, well, was denied opportunities.
It was a stark reminder of the racism of the time, but Mary Anderson, she refused to be silenced. So in 1939, she was barred from singing at Constitution Hall in D.C. because of her race. But in this really powerful act of defiance, First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt arranged for her to perform at the Lincoln Memorial, and she sang for an audience of over 75,000 people.
That must have been incredible.
It was a watershed moment in the fight for civil rights, demonstrating that power of art. And her performance at the Lincoln Memorial became a symbol of hope, a reminder that talent and determination can overcome even the most formidable obstacles.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to songwriting. To a woman whose talent for crafting hits often went, well, unrecognized. Rosemary McCoy.
Rosemary McCoy. Her story is one of those hidden talents, a reminder that behind many of the biggest hits, there were songwriters whose names were often overshadowed by the, performers.
Tell me more about her and the songs she wrote.
She was prolific. She wrote over 800 songs, but her name was often missing from the credits. Her hits include Trying to Get to You by Elvis Presley and Gabon Blues by Big Maybelle. She was a master of so many genres, blues, gospel, pop, rock and roll, and her work really left a mark on American music.
It's amazing to think about the impact she had, even if her name wasn't always there.
Her story is a reminder of the importance of recognizing those behind-the-scenes artists, the songwriters, the musicians, the producers.
Okay. And from music, we go back to the civil rights movement, to a woman whose courage and commitment to justice, well, inspired a generation. Amelia Boynton Robinson.
Amelia Boynton Robinson was a force. She dedicated her life to fighting for those rights, for equality. She faced violence and intimidation, but with such grace and determination.
I know she was a key organizer of the 1965 Selma to Montgomery marches for voting rights.
She was a driving force, behind the movement in Selma, working tirelessly to register Black voters and to organize those protests.
And I remember that iconic photograph of her being beaten by state troopers during that first march. Bloody Sunday. It's such a powerful image.
Despite the danger, Amelia Boynton Robinson continued to fight for voting rights, for social justice, demonstrating such courage and a commitment to nonviolence. Her activism helped galvanize the nation and pave the way for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Her story is a reminder that progress requires sacrifice, and that we must never take our right to vote for granted.
Absolutely. Amelia Boynton Robinson's legacy continues to inspire those activists and advocates who are, working to ensure equal voting rights and access to the ballot box for all.
Now let's turn our attention to an explorer who ventured, well, to the ends of the earth. Matthew Henson.
Matthew Henson. His story is one of adventure, resilience, and challenging the limitations placed upon him by a society that often tried to diminish his contributions.
I know he was part of Robert Peary's expedition to the North Pole in 1909.
He was a vital part of that expedition. He was a skilled navigator, a dog handler, a linguist, and he played a key role in their success. He was one of the first people alongside Peary to reach the North Pole, but his contributions were often overlooked or minimized in historical accounts because of his race.
It's disheartening to hear that his achievements were downplayed.
His story highlights the importance of recognizing the contributions of all team members, regardless of their background, and of challenging those narratives that often erase or diminish the, achievements of Black explorers and scientists.
It's time to acknowledge and celebrate his rightful place as a pioneering explorer.
Absolutely. Matthew Henson's legacy reminds us that, exploration, scientific achievement, these are endeavors that should be open to all, regardless of race or background, and that we must work to create a more inclusive and equitable space for scientific discovery.
Okay, now let's turn our attention back to the medical field, to a surgeon who, well, achieved a medical milestone, Dr. Daniel Hale Williams.
Dr. Daniel Hale Williams was a skilled surgeon and a pioneer in medicine, breaking barriers, challenging racial discrimination within, the medical establishment.
I know that he performed a groundbreaking surgery.
He performed the first successful open-heart surgery in 1893, a feat that was considered impossible at the time. Back then, surgery was still relatively new, and the idea of operating on the human heart was it was incredibly risky.
To perform a successful open-heart surgery in 1893, that's truly remarkable.
And he was deeply committed to providing quality health care to everyone, no matter their race or economic status. So he founded Provident Hospital in Chicago, the first interracial hospital in the United States.
He was not only a brilliant surgeon, but also, a social innovator.
His work challenged those racial barriers.
Yeah.
Demonstrating that Black doctors, Black nurses were just as capable as their, white counterparts.
His story is a reminder that access to health care should be a right, not a privilege.
Absolutely. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams's legacy continues to inspire healthcare professionals to strive for excellence, to advocate for their patients, and to really work towards creating a more just and equitable healthcare system for all.
Okay. Let's shift our focus to the world of politics, to a woman who broke barriers and became a voice for the voiceless.
Shirley Chisholm. Her story is about shattering glass ceilings and advocating for those who are marginalized and ignored by, the political establishment. She was the first Black woman elected to Congress, serving from 1969 to 1983. And she was just a fearless advocate for social justice, civil rights, women's rights.
And her campaign slogan, "Unbought and Unbossed," it really captures her spirit and her commitment to fighting for the people.
Yeah. She was a vocal advocate for education reform, for healthcare access, for economic justice, and she consistently fought for those policies that would, benefit marginalized communities.
And in 1972, she became the first Black woman to run for president of the United States.
Absolutely. Her candidacy was a watershed moment. It demonstrated that Black women could aspire to the highest office in the land, and it challenged those traditional notions of who could be a candidate.
Her story is just a testament to the power of breaking barriers.
Absolutely. Shirley Chisholm's legacy continues to inspire generations of women, of minorities, to pursue political office, to speak truth to power, and to fight for a more inclusive and representative democracy.
Now let's turn our attention to another legal pioneer who played a key role in dismantling segregation, advancing civil rights, William Hastie.
William Hastie. His story is one of legal brilliance, a commitment to justice, breaking barriers in a system that was often, stacked against Black Americans.
He achieved a lot of firsts.
He was a trailblazer. He was the first African American to serve as a federal judge, governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and a judge on a U.S. Court of Appeals.
It's incredible to think about, his impact on shaping the legal landscape and paving the way.
He played a crucial role in dismantling segregation, challenging those discriminatory laws, advocating for equal rights. He was a champion for justice, and his victories helped to create a more just and equitable society.
His story is just a testament to the power of education, of perseverance, of challenging those unjust laws.
Absolutely. William Hastie's legacy continues to inspire lawyers, activists who are working to uphold the Constitution and to ensure that equal justice, it's for all.
Okay, let's shift our focus to a visionary leader who believed in the power of education and economic empowerment to uplift Black communities, Booker T. Washington.
Booker T. Washington. He was a complex and controversial figure, but his contributions to Black education, to economic development are undeniable. He was a prominent educator and an advocate for Black self-sufficiency, founding the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in 1881.
The Tuskegee Institute became a renowned educational institution.
Yeah, it was more than just a school. It was a training ground for Black leaders, educators, entrepreneurs. Washington believed that through hard work, education, entrepreneurship, Black Americans could, overcome that discrimination, achieve economic independence. He emphasized practical skill, vocational training, and the development of Black-owned businesses.
So his approach was, well, it was different from other leaders who were, advocating for more immediate change.
That's right. His philosophy was self-reliance and economic empowerment as a means of achieving racial progress. His ideas were controversial, with some criticizing his focus on vocational training, but his contributions to Black education, to economic development, they're undeniable, and his legacy continues to be debated today.
It's interesting to see how different leaders approached the fight for equality.
Absolutely. The civil rights movement was complex. It had so many different voices. Booker T. Washington's approach, while controversial, had a significant impact, and his legacy continues to be studied.
All right, now let's turn our attention to a prolific inventor whose innovations really revolutionized communication, transportation, Granville T. Woods.
Granville T. Woods, he was a genius, a self-taught inventor who held over 50 patents, despite facing racism and limited opportunities.
That's incredible. What were some of his most notable inventions?
He developed improvements for the telegraph, the telephone, and electric railway systems. His inventions helped transform communication, transportation, making them faster, more efficient, and more accessible to the public.
I can imagine how challenging it was for him to, secure patents.
Oh, he faced numerous obstacles, including those patent infringement lawsuits, attempts to steal his inventions. But his ingenuity, his determination, well, they prevailed.
His story is a testament to the power of innovation and recognizing the contributions of Black inventors to American progress.
Absolutely. Granville T. Woods' legacy continues to inspire, to push those boundaries, to challenge limitations, and to create technologies that improve our lives.
And from technology to art.
Yeah.
To a sculptor whose work captured the beauty and dignity of Black life, Augusta Savage.
Augusta Savage, she was a talented sculptor and an art educator, and she played a key role in the Harlem Renaissance, this period of flourishing Black artistic and cultural expression. Welcome back to the final part of our Black History Month deep dive with My Mind Mashups.
I'm so excited to wrap up this incredible journey. We've covered so much ground already, but there's still so many inspiring stories to share.
You're right. We've explored a diverse range of fields, from medicine and science to activism and the arts, and we've seen how these unsung heroes have really shaped our world.
I'm particularly excited about this last part because we're going to dive into the world of sports, music, literature, and even space exploration.
Let's start with an athletic legend who, well, he transcended the world of sports. Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson, the man who broke baseball's color barrier. His story is one of courage, determination, and really challenging a system that was, well, so deeply rooted in racial discrimination.
Imagine this. It's 1947,
Yeah.
and Jackie Robinson steps onto the field for the Brooklyn Dodgers, becoming the first African-American player in Major League Baseball.
I can't imagine the pressure he must have faced. The racism, the hostility, from fans, teammates, even opponents.
He faced it all, with incredible grace and dignity, letting his talent speak for itself, and paving the way for other black athletes to enter the major leagues.
His legacy goes way beyond baseball. He became a symbol of hope, of progress, inspiring generations to fight for equality, for justice.
Absolutely. His story reminds us that breaking barriers requires, well, immense courage, and that one person can make a profound difference in challenging these systems of oppression.
Okay. Let's move from the baseball diamond to the basketball court, to another legend who dominated the game and used his platform to advocate for social justice. Bill Russell.
Bill Russell, he was a force to be reckoned with on the court, leading the Boston Celtics to 11 championships in 13 seasons.
11 championships. That's an incredible record. What made him such a dominant player?
He was known for his defense, his rebounding skills, and his leadership. He revolutionized the game with his athleticism, his intelligence, and his understanding of teamwork.
But his impact, it extended far beyond the game.
Right. Absolutely. He was a vocal advocate for civil rights, challenging racism, inequality, both on and off the court.
It's so inspiring to see those athletes using their platforms to speak out.
Bill Russell was a true champion, both in basketball and in the fight for equality. And his legacy is one of athletic excellence, of social justice, and inspiring others to, use their voices for good.
Okay, so from the world of sports, let's shift gears to music, to a musical genius who defied genres and captivated audiences, Ray Charles.
Ray Charles, the man with the golden voice. His music transcended categories, blending gospel, blues, country, jazz, into this unique and timeless sound.
I love his music. It's so full of emotion, of energy. You can tell he put his heart and soul into it.
He was a master of improvisation,
Right.
and his vocals, his piano playing were just infused with passion and a deep understanding of music's power to move and inspire.
He faced so many challenges, blindness, racism, but his talent, his determination, they shone through, making him one of the most beloved and influential musicians of all time.
His music continues to resonate with people, of all ages, all backgrounds. And his legacy as a musical innovator and a voice for the soul, well, it's just undeniable.
Okay, so for music, let's turn our attention to the world of literature, to a writer whose words have touched so many lives and illuminated the human experience, Toni Morrison.
Toni Morrison, a literary giant, a master storyteller whose novels explored those depths of human emotion, the complexities of race, of identity, and, the legacy of slavery in America.
Her writing is so powerful, so evocative, and her stories, they stay with you long after you finished reading.
Her novels were poetic, lyrical, and often, challenging, forcing readers to confront uncomfortable truths.
She was the first Black woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, which is a testament to the power and the impact of her writing.
Her works have become, essential reading for anyone trying to understand the American experience, particularly the Black experience. Her stories challenged stereotypes, celebrated Black culture, and gave voice to those who had been silenced.
Her legacy is immeasurable, and her words will continue to inspire and challenge readers for generations to come.
Now, let's shift our focus to another musical icon who used his platform not only to entertain, but to fight for social justice, for equality. Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte. He was more than just a singer, an actor. He was a civil rights activist, a humanitarian, a champion for peace and equality.
His music blended calypso, folk, pop, creating this unique and infectious sound.
I love his music. It's so joyful, so upbeat, and it's clear that he was, passionate about using his music to bring people together.
But he didn't shy away from addressing, those social issues. He used his fame to support the civil rights movement, participating in marches, protests, advocating.
It's inspiring to see those artists using their platforms to make a difference, to speak out against injustice, to advocate for a better world.
Harry Belafonte's legacy is one of artistic brilliance, of social activism, and, inspiring others to use their voices for good.
Okay, from music, let's move to dance. To a visionary choreographer who, revolutionized modern dance and celebrated Black culture, Alvin Ailey.
Alvin Ailey, he was a true innovator in dance, blending modern dance, ballet, and African dance traditions to create a style that was, well, both powerful and expressive.
I've seen performances by the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and they're just breathtaking. The dancers are so talented, and the choreography is so moving.
His dances celebrated Black culture, Black heritage, exploring themes of struggle, of resilience, and the beauty of the human spirit.
It's amazing how dance can transcend language and cultural barriers.
And Alvin Ailey's legacy continues to inspire, reminding us of the power of dance to connect us to our shared humanity.
Okay, and from dance, let's move to another literary icon, whose words have touched millions of lives and inspired generations. Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou. She was a poet, a memoirist, an activist, whose words really captured the essence of the human experience, particularly the Black experience in America.
Her writing is so powerful, so insightful, and she had this amazing way of expressing complex emotions, experiences, and they resonated deeply.
Her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, it's a classic. And, it explores those themes of racism, resilience, and the power of the human spirit.
And her poems were just lyrical, powerful, full of wisdom, inspiring millions with those messages of hope, of self-acceptance, and the importance of finding your voice.
Her legacy as a writer, as a mentor, as a voice for the voiceless, it continues to inspire us to embrace our own stories, to speak our truths, and to use our voices to make a difference.
Okay, now let's shift gears to the realm of science, to a brilliant astrophysicist who has, well, made those complex scientific concepts accessible to everyone, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a rock star. In the world of science communication, he has this unique ability to explain things in a way that's engaging, entertaining, and, understandable to everyone.
I've seen his TV shows, his documentaries,
Yeah.
and he really makes science come alive.
He's been a vocal advocate for science education, for literacy, emphasizing the importance of critical thinking, of scientific inquiry, and the role of science in shaping our understanding of the world.
His work reminds us that science is not just for scientists, it's for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a way of understanding the world around us, of questioning assumptions, of seeking evidence-based answers to the mysteries of the universe.
And from space, we return to Earth, to a singer whose voice was a force of nature, infused with passion, with soul, and a deep commitment to social justice. Nina Simone.
Nina Simone, a true icon, a singer, a songwriter, an activist whose music reflected the times in which she lived.
Her voice was raw, powerful, deeply moving, capable of conveying such a range of emotions, from joy and love to anger and despair.
Her music addressed those issues of racism, of inequality, and the struggle for liberation, making her a powerful voice for the civil rights movement.
Her songs like Mississippi Goddam and To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, they became anthems, expressing the pain, the frustration, and the hope.
Her music continues to inspire us to confront injustice and to work towards a more just and equitable world.
Absolutely. Nina Simone's legacy is one of artistic brilliance, of social activism, and using music as a weapon for change.
And as we wrap up this journey through Black history, I think it's important to reflect on the immense contributions that these unsung heroes have made to our world.
They've broken barriers, challenged conventions, and inspired generations with their talent, their courage, and their unwavering commitment to justice and equality.
Their stories remind us that Black history is American history, and that recognizing and celebrating the achievements of Black Americans is essential to understanding the richness and the complexity of our nation's past.
And these stories, well, they're just a starting point. We encourage everyone to continue exploring, to seek out those hidden figures in your communities, in your families, and to learn more about the diverse and truly remarkable contributions of Black Americans throughout history.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this Black History Month deep dive with My Mind mashups, well, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to hear more.
You can find My Mind mashups on Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, and YouTube.
We're always exploring new topics, uncovering hidden gems of knowledge, so stay tuned for more.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.